Thank you for joining for Shelter Together. Today I have Wendy Clow with me. She's the Executive Director for Habitat for Humanity. Thank you for joining, Wendy.
Thank you for having me.
So starting out, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your history in Jackson, some of your past experiences, and how you eventually came to join the Habitat team?
Sure. That can get to be a long story, but I'll see if I can condense it.
Yeah.
So I've been in Jackson for about 30 years. Oh my gosh. Yeah, for about 30 years. I grew up in Tennessee, actually. So after high school, I went into the Marine Corps and moved around a little bit there, and ended up here because of the person I married after the Marine Corps was from Jackson. Mm-hmm. So that was my first marriage. But I'm now married to Scott Clow. A lot of people know Scott from the radio. Yep. K105.3. So a lot of people, they see me, are you Scott's wife? I'm like, no, he's my husband.
Exactly.
Yeah, Scott's Wendy Clow's husband. So anyway, we've been married for about, 10, so it's almost 11 years, and 10 and a half years. And I have two kids that are grown. They're 27 and they just had birthdays, 28 and 30. And
hopefully you didn't miss sending.
I didn't. We actually had a big 30th birthday party for my son. So speaking of him, he's a state trooper. Okay. Here, he works out of the Marshall Post, and then my daughter is a nurse in the ER here in Jackson. Okay. And so, my background professionally has been in marketing for the most part. Although after I left the Marine Corps and moved up here, I did spend about 8 years in the mortgage industry, which has come in really handy with my job here at Habitat. But when I switched from mortgages to marketing, that was probably maybe 10 or so years in marketing, and all through the digital evolution of marketing and that was really, I loved it. And I still do a lot of it with Habitat. This opportunity came up for me about 4 years ago, and I was told about it through someone that I know, and it just sounded really interesting, like a really good next step in my career. And honestly, for my stage in life that I'm in, I mean, I've got adult kids. I've also got 2 stepkids. So my husband's kids are in 11th and 12th grade, so we're almost empty nesters again. And I just feel like I'm the mom of a big organization. It's not even that big, but the mom of a big family. And my job is to just bring resources together to let people have what they need to do their jobs. And it's been a great fit. I've been there for about 4 years now.
Well, it's a unique trajectory getting there.
I know, right?
I'm sure all experiences tie in.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit, for those that aren't familiar, just what's some of the mission of Habitat for Humanity, both kind of nationally, internationally, and then specifically in Jackson, if it's different than the larger mission or if it's more focused. And then, kind of talk to you about, the restore and some of the things that all tie into what the mission of Habitat is.
Yeah. Habitat, a lot of people don't realize, and I didn't before I started, what we do and how we do it and why we do it. A lot of people are under the impression that Habitat gives people houses, which is really far from the truth. But just kind of to back up a little bit, Habitat is an international organization. Actually, our home office is called Habitat for Humanity International, and they're located in Atlanta. And we have an affiliate like the Jackson Local Habitat. We're called affiliates. So it's similar, if it were a for-profit world, it's similar to a franchise. So we would be like an independent franchisee kind of thing. So we are not technically affiliated with other habitats in the state or the country, other than through our common relationship with Habitat International. So Habitat International provides the model for us to do what we do, and it's a playbook. We take that and we can customize it for our local communities, because every community is different in the way that the needs when it comes to affordable housing. And so we can all be really individual as far as how we apply the playbook to what we do. But there are strict rules and guidelines around certain things, and they provide the support like the support to make sure that we're in compliance with all of the regulations, because we are considered a mortgage company and we're also considered a construction company. And so, as you know, in both of those industries, there's really heavy government compliance things that we have to be aware of and follow. So Habitat International has departments about each of those, and a legal department, a mortgage department, a construction department, and they make sure that we follow all of the guidelines that we need to, and they provide all those resources for us to be able to do that. So that's kind of how it all works together. And one of our major sources of income is the Restore. You were asking about the Restore. If you haven't been to the Restore in a while, you really need to check it out. It's kind of like a new store every day. Again, before I started with Habitat, I didn't even realize that the Restore was just a resale store, just like any other resale store. It's open to the public. As a matter of fact, we have this big sign out front that says open to the public, because people don't think that. People think it's just a store for maybe contractors or something like that. But we have furniture, household goods, some electronics. We've got, most of it's just house good stuff, like I said, the furniture, but also construction materials that have been donated to us. Flooring, cabinets, countertops, sinks, bathrooms, mirrors, all of that stuff. Most of it's donated and pre-used, but most of it's in really good condition. But some of it is new. We have great partners in the community like Christoph's and Vermeulen's and Lowe's, that will donate new products that for some reason or another they need to get out of their inventory or something like that, and they'll just bring it down to us. So we've got, sometimes you can find some really good new stuff if you're doing something to your house or something like that, and then it's really heavily discounted. And so that, as a resale store, also to donate, if you are redoing your kitchen, or you're buying new furniture or something like that and you want to get rid of your stuff, we'll come pick it up from you if you need it. So
if it's still good, useful stuff.
If it's still good, useful stuff. We are not a dump. Let me just put that out there. We are not a dump, so please don't bring your junk. But it's pretty subjective. People, some people would look at something and think that that's not usable and it's junk, and other people might want it. So it's not to say don't bring it unless it's perfect, because we would like to have anything as long as it's in decent condition. But we have had people that will drop off stuff after hours or overnight and leave. We have bags of leaves that were dropped off the other night outside of our door.
It's hard to sell those.
Yeah. I don't know where that comes from, but yes, please, let me, PSA, public service announcement, don't take your bags of leaves to a resale store. Anyway, so that's a huge revenue generator for us. That's probably, last I looked, because we do keep track, it's about 60 to 65% of our total revenue to be able to do what we do. Yeah. So
you talked a little bit about saying you don't just give houses to people, so people don't just call you and say, "Can I have a house?" You say, "Yep, 9 months you'll have a house." So what's that process look like from the beginning? How do you identify? Because anybody would say, "I would like a house." So how do you identify who's actually going to meet the criteria for you? What's the process? And do they have their own skin in the game, or is it just they passively get a house? And so kind of walk us through some of that process.
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to talk about that. It is a program that we have. It's our home buyer program, and we call it a home buyer program because that's exactly what the people that apply and go through the program do. They purchase the house from us. What we do is we're not a charity. We don't give things to people. We don't offer handouts. We offer a hand up. That whole saying, not a handout, but a hand up. We offer opportunities for people who are renting that could very well be great homeowners, but just don't know how to get there. Many times there are people who have grown up in poverty who for generations probably have never experienced homeownership and don't know what it means, because we're not really taught about that so much in schools. I mean, maybe they're getting a little bit better about it now, but it's not really something that's focused on in school. And if you've not seen it at home or been taught about it at home, how do you even go about buying a house, and becoming a homeowner? And so that's what we do. help people learn about that.
Mm-hmm.
We have a financial counseling program that they have to go through. So once they apply, if someone's interested, their application process is very simple. And as soon as you decide that you want to go through this, the first thing that you would do is you would get connected with a financial counselor.
Mm-hmm.
And the meat of the program is really working through everything with them. So that financial counselor is going to look at your credit. They're going to look at they're going to talk to you about what your financial goals are. If what you want to do is purchase a house, they're going to help you set that goal and figure out what you need to do to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to work with you on if there is anything on your credit report that needs to be cleaned up, they're going to help you do that. That's very doable. People sometimes are really intimidated by a credit report, but sometimes, I mean, just because you've made mistakes or you've had stuff, that's landed on your credit report that doesn't look at it, doesn't mean that that's following you forever. It really is not a life sentence. And so the financial counselor will really dig into all of that with you and get you prepared to be able to get a mortgage to purchase a house.
Okay.
Once you've worked through that process and the financial counselor feels like you're ready to get pre-approved for a mortgage, they're going to get you back in touch with us. It's basically our staff. Other than that, financial counselor is hands off at that point while they're working together, because it's a very private, personal, intimate thing that you're dealing with. So we don't get into your business as far as that's concerned. That one person does, and it's you and that person walking through this path together. Once you're ready, then you start back working with our program coordinator, who will then kind of get you into the buyer part of the program. And then we look at what houses we might have in progress. So we, being a construction company, we build houses brand new from the ground up. We also do gut rehabs. Like if there's a house that is, it's been vacant, we've worked with the city and taken some of those and gutted them and made them new again. So whether it's a brand new build or a gut rehab, we'll look at what we're doing, seeing if there's something that matches what your situation is and is a good fit for your family. We match you with a house, then you start putting in what we call sweat equity. Mm-hmm. So because you're probably not going to have at this point a lot of money to put down, that's okay. A large down payment is not required, but we do require a minimum of 300 hours of sweat equity.
Personal time towards
the process. So you're helping to build your house. You are helping other people build their houses. Mm-hmm. You are helping in the restore maybe. You could be writing thank you notes to some of our donors. Just whatever you could do to kind of just really be fully invested in your own progress. So all of that process could take a year, 2 years. It just depends on. It depends on really on you. And so it's all self-driven. And we have a lot of people that start the financial counseling process that will become ready to become a homeowner, and maybe they don't match with the house that we have. Because we could have 24 applicants at any given time going through the financial process, and we build maybe 3 to 5 houses a year. So once you're ready to buy a house, you have choices. You can either wait and try to get, as long as it takes to get into one of our houses, or we can talk to you about what it might take to get hooked up with a realtor and a mortgage person on the market and buy that way. So there's a lot of choices when you go through that.
Okay. That's good. So within Jackson in particular, are there trends that, Habitat's seen over the years, or, was there a big focus in the 90s and early 2000s and, kind of now? Because people are wondering, is homelessness going up more? Or, a lot of houses in Jackson were torn down over the last 5-10 years. And so I guess what's kind of your focus within Jackson, within kind of the bigger context of things? And will you kind of be doing things as you have the last 5-10 years, or the next 5 years? Do you see adapting the strategy at all?
The program and the strategy, as far as how how all that comes together, like I just described, it's always going to be like that. It's been like that since 1976, basically. But the construction side of it is changing, and we're always looking at ways to help more people. And across the country, Habitat nationally is looking at ways to scale what we do so that we can do more than in the near future, maybe we can do more than build 3 to 5 houses a year. Maybe we can scale that up to where we can do a whole lot at one time and get more in there. At the same time, we're also looking at energy efficiency, and we're getting a lot better about that. So, for instance, 10 years ago, the houses that we built here in Jackson are way different than the houses that we're building now.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has to do, there's been a huge jump in the quality of the houses that Habitat builds, even over the last 5 to 7 years. Habitat for Humanity is the 5th largest home builder in the country as an organization. Literally, we build a lot of houses, and with that comes a lot of attention from maybe government agencies or other organizations that are interested in decreasing the carbon footprint or increasing energy efficiency of the house, increasing the durability of the house. There's a story that gets told a lot about a house that Habitat built somewhere in Florida on the coast. Strong winds or hurricane type storm came through, and the only house left standing was the Habitat house. Because that's the way we build now. Right. We build with the family in mind that's going to get that house, and they're coming into homeownership as a low-income family. I didn't mention that before, but we do work with families who live at 80% of the area median income or below. That's easy to look up. It's a HUD scale that they put out for every county in the country. So these families that are getting into these houses, they're low income to begin with, which is why it's really important to really talk about budgeting and being mindful with your money and that kind of thing. But we also need to have a house that is going to be affordable for them to live in, not just for the monthly payment, but we want the utilities to be cost effective, and we want the house to be, it's going to be not something they're going to have to put a lot of money into up front. They can take, as long as they maintain it, which we teach them how to do. It's a house that's going to last for a long time for them, and they're not going to have to put a lot of money into it. So those are things that we've really been focused on over the last decade as Habitat, and it's only getting better and better. And we are partnering, currently actually we're partnering with the Department of Energy, and there's some beta kind of stuff or pilot types of programs that they're trying to get some major builders to take part in, as far as things to reduce the carbon footprint and things to increase like I said, the energy efficiency. So we're working on all those kinds of things. A big challenge right now is the cost of building materials and the availability of building materials. It's no secret; it's in the news everywhere. The supply chain is an issue. 2 houses that we've had built and enclosed since August, we've been waiting on windows to come in, and we can't get the siding on them until we get the windows in, and we still don't have the windows. They were originally supposed to come in August. Now they're saying November. So it's those types of challenges, and we're also paying a lot more for materials than we ever did, ever. And luckily, here in Jackson, we have a grant it's a HUD grant that is administered by the city that's helping us be able to subsidize those higher costs right now. So that's just a gift, because we had that already secured before COVID. But if we hadn't, I don't know how we would be building right now. We would have had to figure something else out, because our cost to build a house over the last 2 years since COVID started has increased by 30 to 40%. That's a lot for an affordable house. So we have a lot of money going into these houses that we're selling for an affordable price for the family. So it's really upside down right now, which is why
you would have to take a loss so that you can
exactly.
Keep it,
so we have that's where
for the
donations and grants come in, and and the there's a lot of gaps. So there's gaps between the cost to build and the affordability of the house for the family that we have to cover with subsidies with donations and grants. But then there's also the gap in financing between we have to make sure that we're able to get them in a mortgage that they can manage, which sometimes means that we're going to be having to share some equity in that house. So if the house appraises, let's say the house that we build appraises for 150,000, which it very well might in this market, right? But the buyer can afford a mortgage at 100,000.
Right.
Then we have to try to get down payment assistance, which can go towards that. But whatever gap is left, we have to hold that as equity, meaning as shared equity, meaning we hold a silent subordinate mortgage, so that they can still get in with their mortgage that they can afford.
Right.
But that equity is being shared. That the equity that's that gap there is being shared. It would be better if we could have grants to cover that versus having just that amount left sitting on the table. But it's a whole very big, long conversation we could have, and I just keep on going, but so you can stop me.
That's tricky.
Yeah.
So something I really appreciate about Habitat is when you think about generational poverty, and that's kind of a big conversation. I think home ownership is a huge solution to that, because if a family's been renting for 100 years, where other families, if they've just owned, now that wealth is being passed on, or when the grandparent passed away, that house goes to the person, and every payment is going towards something you own rather than just to renting. And so, and also, you put down roots in a community where it's not necessarily great for kids to bounce from apartment to apartment, so that they're, changing school districts. So kind of the larger conversations being had nationally, that's something that really excites me about Habitat is, 30 years from now, more and more people have that ownership. Not only does it enhance, the skin in the game in the communities to kind of care for your own place, but now those kids and those grandkids are kind of going to benefit from that wealth that's built over time. And so, so what you guys do is fantastic. And
I have a great example of that. If you want a good story, you want a good feel-good story?
I do. Okay. Please.
We have a homeowner who bought their house from us just over 10 years ago, 10 or 11 years ago. And since she purchased it, her family's grown. She's got 5 kids, and they're young. They're from, one's a baby, and then I think the oldest is 12 or 13. And the neighborhood that our house is in has gone down as far as it's higher crime. When I say it's gone down, it's just deteriorated a little bit over the years. And we do have pockets like that in Jackson, right? And this house happens to sit right there in the middle of a really hard neighborhood to grow and for kids to grow up in. Right. And I was talking to her one day, and she was worrying over that. Right. And I said, you could sell that house and move into a different area, right? And that honestly had never occurred to her. And these are things that they should be learning in the financial counseling as they're going through it. But really, they're many times just focused on getting stability, getting into that house and being stable, like you said, not having to move around, not having to worry about how long this rental is going to last for, and that kind of thing. So that was what she was focused on. She got that. She's kept up her house so nice. And this, as you know, right now we're in a great market to sell a house. Right. So I introduced her to a realtor in town that I know, and she did an analysis on it, and it turns out that this home buyer or this homeowner has enough equity in her house right now that she's going to have a good chunk of a down payment to go into a better neighborhood, a bigger house. And her house, she just accepted an offer. And so now she gets to go shop for a new house, and she is, so that's something that, people don't realize that it's a long-term effect of this. And there's another homeowner family whose kids this other homeowner family paid off their mortgage 2 years ago, and they stay in touch with us, and they're great mentors for new ones coming in. But their kids were young when they bought their house. Now they're adults, and those kids now that are adults keep in touch with me and want to do things with Habitat. And it's like full circle. It's beautiful. I love that part of my job.
And the kids are seeing the process happen. They don't realize the financial counseling that's happening, but they're learning the steps of what they're able to do. So that just becomes the norm for them when they're adults, which is neat. Yeah. So as we kind of get close to wrapping up, what are some ways that you would encourage the Jackson community to either get specifically involved with Habitat or just in general within some of these bigger issues, whether or not it's with Habitat? I would say everybody's got, and
different ways to give back, and different times in their lives would, lend for different types of resources to be able to put in. So whether you are, maybe you're an empty nester yourself, you've gone through your career, you're very financially stable, you want to give back, financial gifts are always welcome. I said something about the Restore being about 60% of our revenue. The other, there's two other sources of revenue. One is our mortgages. We do hold some mortgages, so we get mortgage income from that. And then grants and donations is the other one. So we need all that help that we can get. The Restore really does serve to sustain us operationally. So, the majority, if not all, of the local donations and grants that come in can go directly towards the homes. I mean, we could, every bit of the money that comes into Jackson Habitat stays in our mission. So there's that. And then we do everything that we do with volunteers. We have two people on staff that are construction related people. One is a licensed contractor, obviously, and he is the one that oversees all the construction. But we have a regular crew of volunteers that have joined us. Maybe many of them have retired. They've gone through their career and have retired, and they've got time on their hands, and they're still young, and they want to do something. And so we've got a group of people who show up day after day, week after week, as if it's their job. It's a beautiful thing. They love it. They love it because they get to, we're putting them to work. They're doing work that's meaningful, and they've got the camaraderie and the fellowship with doing that. So we need to continue to replenish that group, because we, a lot of the people that have been with us for a long time in that group started started volunteering with us after they retired 15 years ago. So as you can imagine, they're aging out of being able to do this. So we need to continue to replenish that. So volunteerism is huge. Even if you don't have all of that kind of time to volunteer, we always need volunteers for, even if it's just a few hours a week. There's always something that can be done, or that you can help with in the Restore, or administratively. We try to keep our overhead costs as low as possible, so we use volunteers as much as we can. And so those are basically we've got a couple of committees that we need help with. And so basically volunteering and giving financially are two big things.
And then do you have a website, people, if they did want to volunteer or give financially, that they could visit?
Yep, it's jacksonhabitat.org. Really easy, jacksonhabitat.org. And then to get it directly to the donation page, it's just jacksonhabitat.org/donate. Or if you just go to jacksonhabitat.org, or just Google Habitat in Jackson, Michigan, you'll get to our website, and there's a big button that says donate. And there's also easy to find page for volunteering as well. So,
Well, any final words of wisdom for anybody in the Jackson community, or your old Marine friends, or anything like that before we wrap up?
Oh my gosh, it's been so long since I've been in the Marine Corps. But anyway, since I've been with Habitat, I've realized just how generous the Jackson community is. I just can't say enough about that. And so I guess really the big thing is just thank you. And I get so inspired every day when I see people that come together with us to engage in what we do, and they really get deeply involved in what we do. Many of them do, and it's a really big family. And honestly, all I have to do is just be there. I just have to provide the resources, keep the doors open, and let people come in and do it. And it's a beautiful job, and I love Jackson. I can't say enough about how great the community is, really. So.
Well, thank you for what you do. You've been a huge encouragement to me personally, and I appreciate what Habitat does. And really, here at Jackson Interfaith Shelter, I mean, I mean it when I say I would love to work us out of a job. We don't want there to be homelessness. We're an emergency shelter, and so organizations like Habitat that are providing that long-term solution for what we're shooting for, we want to just continually think of, how do we partner more with you guys? How do we get people to work hand in hand with you? And what does it look like to move somebody from the homeless shelter into housing, whether that's an actual build that you do, or the financial counseling that helps people to get their credit to a place so that in 5 or 10 years they can move to this next season, or their car insurance can
Yeah.
be cheaper because their credit score is better. So all of that goes hand in hand. So thanks for doing all those different pieces.
Yeah, it's a long process. It's a wide scale. And I don't know if I talked about the fact that, or if we said in the beginning that I'm on the board of directors here.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I'm on the board of directors here at the shelter.
Right.
So I love what you guys do too. I mean, I've seen so much change in this place in the last 2 to 3
We
years.
pushed a lot of that.
Well, you're responsible. You and your staff are responsible for most of it. And I've been, talk about being inspired. So thank you for what you guys do too.